It's Jeff Ross, Mike's hot, let's ride. Caffeinated kangaroo with a crew worldwide. From Tassie to LA, we flip the script. Helping burnt out dads, let the hustle shift. This ain't hype, it's purpose and play. Building biz with soul, the laptop dad way. Reels AI, freedom in your grip. With a boom sauce beat and a real talk tip. So grab your brew, hit play, let's roll. You're the hero now, we're just here to soul. Let's bounce, legend, in the awesome town where kangaroos coach and kings wear crowns. This is the Laptop Lifestyle Dad Show, boom sauce, baby.
I love that, Dave. We're going to have to redo it. We have to get the pumped up platypus there in the crowd, dance along with us.
Well, I managed to get a couple of them together playing the guitar. I've added a bit of motion to that now. I'm just playing around with getting some music behind it, and that'll be released sometime soon. But getting them to sing together might be a different story. But some music and then
we can get a lip syncing, right? You know, I played around with one there for Lachlan's birthday yesterday. Did you see that one?
Yeah, I did. That was awesome.
Actually, whilst we're talking about that, before we get up and run with this today's live, let me actually just quickly get that going for everybody. Whilst I'm doing that, Dave, you just want to do a quick introduction for yourself?
Me, yes, well, I'm Dave. Anybody that doesn't know who I am, I'm a proud father of 2 children that live with me, 2 children that live down the road in Brisbane. I love geeking out on AI, all things AI. I love, fishing, family man.
What's one thing nobody knows about you?
I don't know whether whether most people or not would know that I was born in Broken Hill and I was adopted when I was 7 months old.
Yeah, wow. There you go. Well, guys, my name's Jeff Ross. Dave's up actually in central Queensland. I'm down here in Tasmania where it's freezing cold. Proud father of 3 amazing boys. And one thing not many people know about me is in my youth, in my crazy, crazy days, I used to ride bulls, believe it or not. It was my son Lachlan's birthday yesterday, and we open it up here. I just want to quickly share everybody another little AI video that we put together. This was actually me and Lachlan. We created this one together yesterday for his birthday. So let's just quickly see this one. Yeah. Oh, hang on. Let's bring it back up. Where'd it go? Why is it not coming up? Technology. Let's try.
Let's go. 12 years strong, wild and true. The world lit up the day I met you. Bright eyes, big heart, hands that create. You sketch your dreams, yeah, your future looks great. Thailand flashback, just me and my guy. Night markets buzzing and neon sky. I still feel that trip deep in my chest. Just me and my son on a wild little quest. You shine so bright like a fire on the hill, with a heart so big and a wild free will. Keep climbing high, never sit still. You're 12 now, lock, and you're already ill. Draw, you jam, you make that sound. Ideas like rockets flying off the ground. Now you're rocking that stick, hockey fire in your grip. First to the ball, you don't never skip. Wild free soul, generous heart. You lift up others, that's the dopest part. You care out loud, you speak with grace, and you wear your truth all over your face. Soon we rolling down south, Hobart style. Snacks in the pack and stories to compile. Just us two, that father-son flame. Another adventure, another new game. 13's coming, we'll fly that sky. Disney rides and dreams so high. But right now, this moment's yours. Kick that door down, life's all outdoors. 12 candles flicker, another page turn. You've grown so strong, you've lived, you've learned. From boy to man, I clearly see. Happy birthday, Locke, love from me.
Awesome. awesome sauce.
That's it, boom sauce.
Exactly.
Well, this is the thing, right? When you learn how to master the tools, you learn how to create content that connects on that emotional level. So let's dive into today's Facebook Live, Dave. This one's going to be raw. It's going to be real. It's going to be absolutely ridiculously valuable. We want to make sure that we show up, and every time that we show up together, we're adding value to our community. We're helping them to take away a lesson, take away a technique, take away something from, our interaction together. So if you're so if you're creating content and it's not turning into conversations or cash flow for you, I want you to lean in. Like if you're creating content and you're just getting crickets all the time, this is for you. If you're creating content and it's not leading to sales and dollars in the bank, this is for you. Dave, why would you want people to tune into today's Facebook Live?
Well, I guess that for me, this sort of resonates with me, I guess, a bit as well, and that is the fact that you can go on and put content all over the place, but it doesn't matter whether it's scroll stopping content. That's a mouthful to get out all the time, or not. For me, if it's not, if there's no soul in it, and there's not, reaching the people that you're trying to talk to, or your audience's soul or their heart, then it doesn't really matter what you put out there. They're just gonna, they're still gonna ignore it. They're still gonna scroll past. They're gonna stop, and they're gonna go, and then they're just gonna keep going. You really need to, flip the script and get the people to, you need to get into their heart, from your heart to their heart.
It's an energy transfer, right? And here's the thing. And if you don't get this, you're invisible. I remember, a few years back now, I was just following all the other leaders too, and I was putting up copy and pasting and putting content up there for, thought I'm going to put content out there. I'm going to put myself out there, right? For the sake of just doing it. But the content that I was creating wasn't connecting, and it was, basically I felt invisible. But once you get this, once you understand the emotional connection that you can create with your content, just like that little video I did there, for our 12-year-old son yesterday, game on. You've got 1.7 seconds to grab someone's attention. That's it. And if your content doesn't interrupt a pattern, if it doesn't stop people in their tracks, it's done. They're moved on already to the next thing. Dave, why does emotion really matter when we're creating our content?
Well, I guess there was one thing I learned from our Make It Matters environment with Joseph McClendon, was basically that emotion is energy, and if you don't move people emotionally, then you're not going to move them physically as well. And if you don't move them emotionally, then physically, then you're not going to get that comments, the clicks, the likes, whatever you're trying to achieve. You've really got to get that set in motion. There's a that pattern through it. So without one, the other is useless. So that's really what I've found. Is really diving into that and getting them to react. You've got to give them a reason to want to take that physical action, and that's usually by that emotional trigger, and then move on from there.
That's it, right? And most people just they need to really grasp this, because creating content is what we do. And there are really some awesome ways on how to do that. But unless you understand the why, the heart, the reason behind it all, then all you're doing is contributing to more noise. The fact that when you can understand some of the psychology behind this on why we create content and ways to do it to connect to people emotionally, that is where the game is. And Dan Kennedy is pretty brutal about this, actually. He says if your marketing isn't grabbing attention, it's not marketing. It's just wallpaper. Like, you're just adding to the noise. You're adding to the world collective, posts that are out there. And people have got too much choice, too many things in front of them these days. And it's no wonder we're so, distracted, and our attention span is as small than a goldfish. Dave, why do you think this is, why do we really need to overemphasize this more?
Well, I guess it's just, as you said, you got to try and get out of that noise, and posting nice content these days just isn't doing that pattern interrupt that you really need. So you really need to interrupt them, and I think the best way to do it really is, you've really got to connect with people. You got to connect with your audience. You got to connect with their heart. You got to connect with anything that resonates with them. And if you're not actually doing that, well, you're just going to, like you said before, you're going to get crickets, because, you know, it's okay. People will scroll and they'll stop and they'll have a look at a pretty picture and they'll, you know, maybe browse over what you've done. But, you know, if you really want people to start, you know, want the access to them to start conversations and that sort of stuff, you really need to, you know, trigger emotionally. And the best way to do that, well, is in their head, but in their heart. And if you can do that, then that gives you that opportunity to open up, you know, conversations. And, you know, without conversations, or no conversations, there's not going to be much of an opportunity to convert. So you really need to do that to get those conversations, so that then you can have that opportunity to build that relationship and then eventually, you know, try and convert them. So
that's it. And it's getting into internally have that dialogue. Hey, this content was made just for me. Whether it's entertainment, whether it's information, whether it's value, whether it's sales, every time you want to be asking themselves that question, because that's what they're always, you know, essentially discerning through that filter. Is this content made for me? You know, and whether they realize it subconsciously or consciously or not. And when we can tap into that, that's where we stop people in their tracks and create that pattern interrupt. Because once you've got people's attention, once they can see that it was for them, then they'll stay with you and go deeper until it's not. You know, people don't buy coaching, or they don't buy products, they don't buy programs. What they're buying is transformation. You know, they're buying clarity. They're buying belief. You know, you can't be coming across your product and be only 95%, 100, you know, 95% belief behind it. You need to be 100% belief in it. Not 95, not 90, not 80, 100%. Because people want to buy your transfer of belief in that space. Hey, what does Donald Miller teach us, Dave?
Well, he really teaches us that, you know, everybody's going to be the hero of their own story, and unless you're, you know, getting people to feel that they're the hero of that story themselves. So I guess he's teaching us to be hero makers, I suppose. And they're not going to, you know, if they're not positioned as the hero in the story, then, you know, they're just going to lose interest. They really need to have that emotional, you know, connection when it comes to that. So I think that, you know, storytelling is a really, you know, great way to, you know, get to, you know, people to resonate with you. But the stories can't always be about you all the time. You know, you're gonna have some stories that are about you, but even in those stories, it's really got to resonate with whoever your audience is and who you're talking to, and get them to go, wow, that really sounds like me, and, you know, and absorb that into them, and then, you know, that's what's going to trigger those emotional triggers, and then it's going to get them to take action. So
yeah, right. So we show this connection point here emotionally, is they see what's in it for them. You know, this is made for me. Now they're getting the transformation, the clarity, and the belief. And now we're positioning ourselves, you know, not in a space of ego and arrogance, but in a position of guide to be the hero maker, not the hero, to help them to be the hero in the story, to lead them into the space. And, you know, Darren Hardy here reminds us that small hinges swing big doors. And this is the thing with content, right? It's about creating those small wins, those small yeses, those small parts of service, the small shifts in the messaging that creates the massive buy-in at the other end. You know, I think a lot of us, unless we really understand the reason for content marketing and we skip over this part, we just see it as a way to grab people's attention, to try and grab people into our funnel. But when you understand this piece, you get to speak to their identity that your people want. You meet them where they're at, and you'll never have to do a hard sell ever again. Because once they get to the sales part of the conversation, they're already pre-sold. You know, they're already done the emotional connection in that space. And this is why we overemphasize why you need to create scroll-stopping content. You know, in AI at the moment, I don't know a better way to stop people in their tracks and grab people's attention, because it's unique, it's different, it's original. And you've always got to keep your finger on the pulse and evolve with that. You know, here's the sexy part about all this is we're going to show you how to really leverage AI, and not just that, you know, buying psychology, and how you can use AI to get a deeper understanding in the emotional psychology of your audience. Because when you understand that, that's when you can create content that stops people in their tracks. But here's what no one really tells you. You know, AI doesn't replace your voice. It's there to amplify it. And if you use it in the right way, it'll give you more clarity, it'll give you more speed, and it'll give you a more emotional punch. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about, jab, 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 right hook. These are the things that we're going to be teaching here in our 30-day content marketing mastery. We're going to help you to bring your heart, and AI is going to help you to bring the horsepower. And together, this is where AI plus your heart equals your superpower, and you are unstoppable. Dave, what are the we're talking about here in our content marketing mastery? We're talking about going from attention to conversation to opportunity. Where are we going with this and this whole conversation today?
Well, I guess just to reassure people, like the whole thing that we really want to emphasize to people, I guess from my point of view, it's a really big stickler for me in the AI thing, and that is that AI is here to I guess, well, as we're going to say it in this, is to elevate your voice. It's not to take it. It's not to take over. It's to amplify what you're doing. It's about speed to market, so to speak, with your products and all that sort of stuff. It just makes your life so much faster. You can get things done so much easier, so much faster, and instead of being worried about it replacing you, you just got to use it to amplify what the message that you're trying to get out there. And that's another reason why I'm a big person for keeping the human in the loop. But if as you always say, was it AI plus your heart equals your superpower? So from that perspective is it's been a bit of a crazy journey for me in this space and with the writing, because I can put dot points down and all that sort of stuff, but then trying to put them into a story or something that's going to make sense to other people, that I'm not so good at. But what I have been able to do is I've been able to actually create some little toys of my own in the AI space that have really, really helped me be able to do that and get my story out there to be told, in a way that people are going to understand it, for one, but it actually resonates with people. So yeah, it's really all about, getting your voice amplified and then, and leveraging that. That's what it is.
So AI has become an extension of who you are to support you, right? Not to replace you. And when you can learn how to create content like this, grabbing attention is just step one. Exactly. And the real win is the conversation you start in your people's heads internally, and then that becomes external. And that's where influence is built. That's where trust is built. And that is the road to the transaction bridge. We're creating a bridge every single time to get people from where they are to where they want to be. And when we can position ourselves as the bridge, the product, the content, the service, whatever it is, you're essentially giving people that sense of freedom and control in the conversation. And that's what it is, because nobody likes to be controlled. Like, I read the book Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, and it unpacks this deeply. The only thing that we can control is our own actions on how we respond or react. At the end of the day, we're walking, talking skin bags full of human emotion, and we're led by emotion, and we're ruled by emotion. Logic is there to help us to go deeper in that space, but we need to start with the emotion. This is where most people mess up in the marketing game. They try to sell, they try to go to logic first, and they do that in the content, they do that in the offer, they do that in the conversation. But, this is why you're getting people scroll past you. This is why people aren't tapping in and going deeper with you, because we use content to create conversations. We use content to create curiosity, and we sell and we convert in that conversation. When you let your content spark curiosity, not resistance, that is where you'll start to get the engagement and grab people's attention. Dave, let's talk about, sales in general. Think about it. Every high ticket started somewhere, right? Where did it start?
Well, usually in a conversation, because well, even particularly in the online world, but even offline, with my background from my previous life, every deal that we did, I was an estimator, and basically it's so you're basically going through the whole sales process, from the pricing of it to conversations to win the job, and without having those conversations and building those relationships, then you didn't stand a chance. It didn't matter. And that's what I found. It doesn't matter whether you're the cheapest price. Some people will just grab that opportunity because that's what it is. But if you've got that trust already built with people, and you can have those conversations, that gives you it gives you the leverage to be able to not be the cheapest in the room, but still make the sale. And that's what I used to find, because I had really good relationships and was able to have the conversations. I didn't have to be the cheapest. They already knew, they already trusted me, they already liked me. So, they would give me the opportunity to explain to them, and not really to sell them, but just explain to them, I guess, why I'm more expensive and what extra benefits they're going to get from that.
Well, it's the old adage. It's the old adage: you get what you pay for. A conversation comes to mind. Hey, and
exactly.
I know that. And it's not necessarily about being the cheap or the most expensive. It's all about the value that you can bring to the table. Correct. But deeper than that, it's all about the connection. That trust thing, because when you're doing some big projects together, there will be opportunities to deepen that connection and have withdrawals from that connection. We're human at the end of the day. And when we're talking about trust, when the trust bank is full and you need to make a withdrawal from that, you're withdrawing from a space of surplus, not scarcity. Exactly. And so, every opportunity, every conversation leads to one thing. To create a deeper and stronger connection with each other.
Yeah.
So guys, if you're watching this and this is speaking to your heart, and you've got a few light bulb moments going off, good. That's what we're wanting to do here. We're wanting to help to educate the masses, because creating scroll topping AI content for the sake of doing it is just going to add to the noise. Creating fancy images using AI without any purpose or emotional connection behind it is just going to be extra wallpaper. And top of wallpaper on top of wallpaper, right? It's not going to be effective.
No, some people are going to have to take that off the wall one day too.
Right. So if you're ready to stop creating content that gets ignored, if you're ready to start creating messages that actually move people into the customer value journey and create a stronger connection with you, then you've got to come hang out with Dave and I in the 30-day content marketing mastery challenge. That we've got coming up starting in July 25th. Let me get the link for you. Actually, I'll just drop that in the comments for you all. If you haven't got your seat already, highly recommend that you save your spot. We've got 14 spots left as of today for our early bird special, and they're going pretty fast. So it's just $199 US. Once those 14 spots are going, we're going to jump the price up to $497. So this is your opportunity to jump in, save $300. But not only that, get access to this level of coaching and deeper, if you will. In our 30-day content marketing challenge, we're going to lift up the skirt, so to speak, and the hood, I should say, and show you everything underneath. We're not going to hold back, and you definitely don't want to see under my
too much fun. No, we can keep those steady steps to themselves.
So, Dave, why is it really important to really deep dive into this psychological side of things?
Well, for me, it's going to. There's going to be a lot of it. It's basically going to give you a really good, I guess, insight and ability to one, I guess, as we just discussed, to create that content. But not only is it just going to allow you to create pretty videos and images and stuff like that, it's really going to teach you how to leverage that from the psychological side as well. So that basically, yes, you're going to put some of those funny videos up and that's just to, create that engagement part and, get some people sort of interacting in that. But, we're going to give you the ability then to take them from that, to hit them with something that's going to actually get them to think up here and going to get them to use this as well. And then it's going to get them to start those conversations. So basically, we're going to give you the opportunity and show you how, we can use this content and leverage the content to take them through that customer value journey into those conversations and, eventually convert.
Saved my son.
You'd be
destroyed our enemies.
All right, keep going, Dave. I'll come back to that.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just if you're feeling, I guess if you're feeling a bit stuck or you're not, really quite sure on how you can utilize this, I suggest, as Jeff said, grab that link, sign up, because at the end of this 30 days, the transformation, I feel that the transformation is going to be amazing for people. They're just going to instead of having to think and that, well,
the objective here is the objective is to create massive clarity, but also give them the skill sets to be equipped and empowered to go and share their voice with the world and elevate their voice, right? It's not just about learning how to use AI to create awesome content. It's understanding why behind it all and the how behind it all and what behind it all. So drop a quick fire emoji in the comments if this has hit home. Tag someone if you know that someone needs to join you with this on this journey with you. This is about building a brand that and help you to create content that speaks to people's hearts and converts with power. When you can understand this, great power becomes great responsibility, and great responsibility becomes great power. This is the missing ingredient for a lot of content that's out there. We're going to teach you the structure, the AI tools to build belief, grow trust and start meaningful conversations, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's that transfer and belief transfer. And then you get get creative and you get to speak to people where they're at. Just like this little video here. But just before I close out with this little video, we would love to see you on our voice challenge. And voice is an acronym. It stands for values, origin story, influence, clarity, and expression. And we're going to tie that in throughout all of our conversations, because that's how we raise above the noise. We go deep with people. It becomes the vertical to the horizontal. The horizontal, what you do, how you do it, doesn't necessarily change. But the reason why does. And that's where we go deeper. So if you've got any questions, want to reach out to us, we're an open book. We love to chat about this stuff. We geek out all day long. Reach out to myself or Dave and we can have a conversation with you. But really, we would love to see you there, in our 30-day sprint, to be able to help you to elevate your voice. I'm going to wrap up here on this note here with this little video. Just to create the story behind this. I saw this. There was a commercial on my Facebook feed from Powtoons. And they had like a woman monarch, speaking to a knight, and basically I took the word for word script, and then I got my creative energy on top of it. I didn't actually just rip it off. I redeveloped it and I replicated the concept, the idea. Russell Brunson's been talking about funnel hacking for over a decade now. And this is the same concept. I essentially funnel hacked the video and I created my version of it to bring in the brand and bring in that element. And here's the video just to show you an example.
You saved my son. You destroyed our enemies. You may ask for any reward.
I want the 30-day Voicey Content Marketing Mastery Program to level up like this video.
Right, so that's going to stop people in their tracks. And if people have been following us along that journey, that's not to talk to the cold audience, that's to talk to the warm audience. And it's to create curiosity and go, hey, how did Jeff do that? I want to be able to do that. And that goes deeper in that trust and that belief, right? We're leading with credibility. We're leading with trust building exercises and leading by example, show, don't tell. And this is the sort of stuff that we're going to really deep dive into it and unpack it. Not just the tactical and the strategy, but all of the psychology and why behind it as well. Dave, let's close out this conversation. What's one final word of wisdom or note that you want to leave our audience with?
I guess just always remember to, think about your content and do a little bit of preparation in the fact that, what do you really want to get from that piece of content? Do you just want it out there to be, create engagement and be fun? Are you trying to tell your story? Are you trying to get people to start conversations? And that really determines, what type of content you're going to put out there. And then obviously, if you come and join us on the 30-day, sprint, you're going to really know how to create that content as well. So, it's, for me, is a little bit of preparation goes a long way to, getting the right, right content out there at the right time in front of the right people, because that's really what you need to do to be able to get to here and get to here to get those conversations started. So, yeah.
100%. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to come back with a few more lives like this just to go deeper in this and that whole show don't tell approach. Look forward to seeing you in our Voice 30-day content marketing mastery. Thanks for your time. Bye for now.